So recently I cast a low-level SM versus Tyranid gameplay. And now it wasn't quite these heroes, it was a Tech Marine versus Ravner Alpha, which changes things a little bit. I'm not really sure how I feel about the question of is the Tech Marine better against Tyranids than the Force Commander, but we'll see. In fact, let me know in the comments down below, who do you think is the best Space Marine hero to fight the Tyranids? Because the Apothecary definitely has some merits as well. Anyway, I figured I'd try and cast one of the high level games. Let's see if the Lictor Alpha here can get a kill. Should be able to with a Flesh Hook. Boom. Instant model kill. Inekura is going to be playing as the Lictor Alpha here, going to be putting pressure onto the power node. We're going to be on Tiamat's Paradise, I believe this is. Tiamat's Paradise. I don't typically cast this because it is not previously an Elite League map, and quite frankly the water disgusts me because of the lack of blending into the terrain. But that is the nature of water in this game, that's all you can do. Anyway, I'm going to cast it because apparently tournament hosts have been putting this in the map pool recently, so I guess I better get used to the map. I don't know. Now, Inekura here, playing the Lictor Alpha, there's a lot more advantages to going Termagants as opposed to Homagants when you're playing the LA. You don't have the mobility advantage that you get from using tunnels. The other cool thing is, when you're fighting the melee heroes like the Force Commander, you can Flesh Hook them away from your Termagants if the Lictor's behind, and that can buy you a lot of time. Helps you control those melee heroes quite a bit better. The Force Commander and Tax here just doing their best to try and apply a little bit of bleed, get a little bit of XP. They definitely don't want to be losing any models themselves, but they shouldn't. And they killed what? 1 and 2, so 3 Termagants in total. It's something. 2 scouts blobbing up here, should be able to take on the Homagants if microed correctly. Homagants do have equal speed. Oh, okay, shotguns are now coming. That's, yeah. Homagants got to get out of there. Shotgun Blast was used, and literally, like, I don't know, 0.25 of a second there. The Homagants retreated within that time. If it was 0.25 of a second later, they would have been knocked over and probably even lost some models even though they were retreating because they were so low on HP. And shotguns do just that much damage when you're that close to them. So warriors will be able to delay the scouts for a long time. In theory, the scouts should never get caught if you've got perfect AI bot micro. But we'll see whether that happens or not. Nope, did not happen. Caught the scouts, got a nice leap on them, they're gone. So that's good for Inekura. But right here, the weakened Termagants were forced off. Because of course they didn't have their full fighting power. And that's the power of the Force Commander and the Tactical Space Marines early on. Can be pretty good. So scouts for now just going to do a little bit of kiting, delay the warriors, stop them moving up and capping the map. VP's looking relatively even so far, map control in general. A little shotgun blast there just to delay the warriors, and these scouts are going to disengage. Remember, the scouts are speed 6.5 like the Homagants, the warriors are only speed 5.5, so you should be able to outmaneuver these warriors quite easily with the scouts. The main counter to this will be the leap. But here come Assault Space Marines. And now we've got Tax in retreat path. They don't go for any melee, whereas the Force Commander's rotating back to his force because Space Marines like to blob, in particular against the Tyranids. And not to mention, if you're playing the Force Commander, there's a lot of advantages to blobbing, isn't there? You know, you use that battle cry, every time you swing that chainsword, you're going to proc a damage boost to all your nearby allies, so you want to be blobbing for sure. So the little gang here of Termagants going to force off the FC. A little bit sloppy there from Deimos actually to send the FC in so early prior to the ASM jump. It seems, you know, this was a relatively decisively won engagement. It seems a shame that the FC had to retreat, but actually now I'm looking at this map. Damn, the distance from this central little island with a VP to your base is not that big at all. It's like barely a screen. Jeez. Yeah, this map's kind of wild. Oh, Tax running down the middle of this map would be a nightmare. because they can get to base and heal back up and come back at you so fast. That said, there's a lot of ground on the left and right, a lot of ground to cover. Quite a big map, and that obviously helps the Tyranids with their high speed for the Emperor here. Dropped on these scouts, going to give them extra damage. Very lucky that the warriors there managed to grab one of the tactical marine models before retreating. Great for them. So the warriors and the attacks after retreat, Termagants then left isolated, getting jumped on by the ASM. There's nothing they can do. A little attempt there at a retreat grenade, but too late from the scouts. Not going to get anything for that. They're going to rotate to the east side along with the FC, who's now back out with full HP. They're going to deal with these Hormiguns relatively easily, I imagine. Hormiguns do have their adrenal glands. Gives them that extra damage and health, but I don't know how much they can get done here because of the battle cry. They're bleeding models. No, they're not. They're bleeding models themselves. I thought they were going to bleed a model off the scouts, but nope, of course not. It's that range stance FC in the green cover. I maybe would have stayed in a little bit longer there. Just weakened the warriors a bit with my chainsaw before retreating. You know, it's such a short distance to the bloody HQ. I didn't realise that on this map. So we've got double fully upgraded scouts. They're going to be putting on a lot of pressure in the early game. They're going to be really annoying to deal with on the sidelines because they can kind of 1v1 any Tyranid unit. Now, it is a little bit odd that the Tyranids don't have more units. A Tyranid having an equal quantity of units to the Space Marines is always a little bit strange, especially when the Space Marines have got so many upgrades. I'm not really sure how that occurred. I'm trying to look at the XP. Yeah, the warriors killed the tax, and the lictors killed, what, maybe 2 scouts? The gaunts haven't killed anything. Welcome to Tyranids versus Space Marines, eh? So Inekura goes to tier 2 first. This is to be expected. Tyranids always take up first if they don't go for crazy heavy tier 1s. And that's partially why you see the really heavy tier 1s for Tyranids. Also because them taking up first is a lot weaker than other factions because they don't have access to vehicle armor in tier 2. Only the Tyrant Guard and Shield Wall. Oh my god, is this bugged? No way. What? Oh, you're fucking kidding me? This model here is stuck after the leap? Wow. Wow. Yeah, wow. Like, really? I've never seen that before. That's so strange. Getting stuck in uncrushable heavy cover because of the leap? Fuck. Well, that was very lucky for Deimos. That was very lucky for him. So we've got some upgrades coming out on the Lictor Alpha. I assume that the adrenal glands was already... Well, I don't know. Would it have already been purchased in tier 1 or not? I'm not sure. But anyway, he's got that now, and he's got the Siving Talons, maximising his DPS potential at 81.25 power melee DPS. If a Marine wants to standard trade with him in melee, they're going to get killed very quickly. But it also gives you the Scythe ability for suppression and knockback. Can be quite useful. Counter the ASM after they jump. Not immediately, of course, they've got the knockback immunity for a little bit. But you wait a few seconds, then you activate that. But you're going to be going for the Lone Hunter as well, so the Lictor's going to be doing the side capping. I don't know if I like that, because Scouts should still counter him relatively easily with all these upgrades. The only thing that would really mitigate that would be the deadly jump to close the distance on him. So I'm not sure. Termagant's doing their best here to try and control the FC. Preemptive Venom Brood predicting the inevitable Razorback. The Razorback's so strong against the Tyranids, you get it even when you see the Venom Brood. Like, it doesn't matter. You gotta remember as well, Deimos obviously has the ASM and the FC here to be tying up the Venom Brood, so the Razorback can still output its damage potential. Let's have a look at what the Lictor's going to do here. He does have his Lone Hunter buff, I believe. Yeah, he does. But, yeah, I mean, just gets knocked over by shotguns and cooked. Doesn't really achieve a whole lot. The Razorback's now out. And Inekura's army, clearly, not going to do much against Deimos in a army versus army fight here. Deimos is also ahead on VPs. This is really looking terrible for Inekura. Tyranids are meant to have the advantage early on because the Space Marines just get so powerful as they get their squad leaders. You know, Force Commander doesn't have any upgrades yet. We could potentially see the Thunderhammer coming out. Then your melee is pretty useless. You've got the Razorback, which is not really a very good hard counter to that in the Tyranid roster. You've got to mess around with Rippers flanking and Venom Broods and trying to push it into position with screens, as I call them, such as the Adrenal Gland Warrior Brood, the Tyrant Guard, these heavy melee threats that, if you micro the Razorback correctly, should never really catch the Razorback, but they can push the Razorback into a direction in which it's going to get hit by the Venom Brood. But you see here in the head-on engagement, this is exactly what happens. Termagant's going down there. I'm not even sure what killed them, the ASM or the Tax. But the Razorback simply disengages. The Venom Brood is immediately disrupted by a jump from the ASM, and then focus fire from Tactical Space Marines. You've now got a Thunderhammer Force Commander. They're going to kill the Warriors very fast. We don't even see Plasma Guns yet. Plasma Guns would have accelerated the killing of these Warriors as well. And these are Warriors with the Adrenal Glands, giving them an additional 65% HP too. So Inekura are now going to be going for a Tyrant Guard, but the Plasma Gun's already kind of a no-brainer. You go for the Tyrant Guard, it's super heavy infantry, it just justifies going for the Plasma Gun even more. Now, Tyrant Guard, when it goes into its shield wall, will turn into vehicle armor, but it doesn't really matter. If it's in the shield wall, it isn't doing anything. That's on a relatively low cooldown. It's very slow outside of Synapse. Just ignore it. Wait for it to come back out of shield wall, and then rip it to pieces again with your Thunderhammer and Plasma Gun. So here we go. We've got more upgrades coming in for the Force Commander. We've got the Artificer Armor and the Iron Halo right now. That is the combo that you go for to make the Force Commander as tanky as possible. Because the Artificer Armor increases your HP regen, your max HP, and your max energy. And then the max energy fuels the Iron Halo to make it even more tanky. It's a very powerful combo. Triple cap in favor of Deimos. Still, the game looks very favored for him. I don't know how Inekura is meant to deal with this, but Razorback is going around without a lot of HP right now, which is a little bit risky. Certainly if Inekura can take out the Razorback, that's going to help him out tremendously. With the Tyrant Guard in the main fights, he can take the army versus army brawls. But it's tricky, you don't want to overextend your Tyrant Guard. So the Tyrant Guard is quite a nice counter to the Thunderhammer Force Commander because he can't be knocked over unlike all your other melee assets when the Thunderhammer Force Commander starts doing all of the special attacks. A little bit of micro errors coming in here from Deimos. Homergun sneaked in onto the scouts, but they're only able to claim one model. Probably needs to get out of there. There's potentially a retreat grenade in their path. Nope, Deimos is not going to go for it. Potentially could go for it on the Lictor Alpha. Probably wouldn't get the kill anyway. He's not gonna. He's going to retain his energy. He's going to kite the Tyrant Guard, which is now using its charge to move back down to this contested VP. Inekura really wants to keep this in his control. Probably wants to start spawning some Rippers. Tie up all these range threats, predominantly the Tactical Space Marines, which I will note still don't have a plasma gun, which I find odd. Inekura is going for a Devastator Space Marine squad. Oh, he lost the Razorback over here. Yeah, it looks like the Venom Brood did snag it. Wow. Poor play from Deimos, really. But I think it was kind of greedy, moving it around with like 150 or so XP, quite aggressively trying to disrupt the Lictor Alpha. Okay, so that's a dub for Innie. Maybe he's still in this. He's killing a couple of ASM right now. Literally killed the Sergeant and the ordinary ASM model. 2 scouts are dead here. Lictor might get another scout here. Of course he does. He's doing some big damage. He gets 2 scouts here. Is this the Stalk Global on him? Yes, it is. Increasing his damage and his speed slightly. So that's 4 scouts down. The ASM Sarge, the ASM model, and a Razorback. That's really good for Inekura. Really good for Innie. Force Commander delaying for a little bit here. He's got to be careful. He doesn't have a lot of HP though when this shield goes down. Oh my god, is he going to die? Oh, Deimos is throwing. He loses his Force Commander here. Super greedy. That was really unnecessary. That was just to get a little bit of tickle damage against the Warriors for the next engagement. He ends up losing him. Inekura now going for tier 3. Feels confident. He's taken out the Razorback. Deimos has gone for a Devastator squad. Oh, it's gone for a Las Cannon as well. A really hard counter here to the Tyrant Guard. So that's going to do nice damage with each hit. Not crazy amounts because this is a super heavy infantry threat, so it's got more HP than a typical vehicle, since you can actually hurt it with small arms. But the beautiful thing is that this will penetrate its shield wall and help you actually kill it. You see the combo there as well, the snare from the last cannon in combination with the snare from the melter bomb will immobilize... Melter bomb? Whoa. Melter bomb will immobilize the Tyrant Guard. Has he got Death Spitters? He does. Here we go. So yeah, he killed the vehicular threat, swaps to the Death Spitters. Now he's got Inferno guns and his Venom Brood, and they're still relevant. So they can put good pressure onto the FC. Well, really everything, to be honest. Still no plasma gun. What's that all about? Deimos, why are you not getting the plasma gun? I find this very odd. No energy right now to jump onto the Venom Brood, but imagine if you had a plasma gun, boy. That would be spanking those things. Last Cannon Devastators moving down into position to finish off this Tyrant Guard, and they should be able to. Though they probably need something else nearby. Or it'll just come out and tie up the last cannon. Ah, here come the Rippers out of the tower. Yeah, they're going to tie up the last cannon. How frustrating. This is Tyrannid 101. Clinging on for as long as possible to keep the Tyrant Guard alive. Now the thing is, Inekura's gone tier 3. He's got a good amount of power. He's probably going to be replacing that Tyrant Guard with a Carnifex relatively soon. But look at this. He uses the Ripper distraction to sneak that Tyrant Guard out. Beautiful play there. And at the same time that he's doing that, he pushes the Lictor Alpha forward. And he uses the Scythe there to suppress and control the ASM as the Lictor retreats out of that terrible situation. But he's not really enjoying this engagement. A lot of full health, heavy infantry marine squads here. Wants to disengage, wants to get his Lictor back. He takes the VP, delays the VP bleed for a little bit. Inekura's still behind on VPs, but presumably once he gets that Carnifex out, things can change. He may even save up for a Swarm Lord. I do not think that would be a very good idea. The problem is that there's already a last cannon on the field. By the time that you're getting your Carnifex or Swarm Lord out, there is likely going to be a Dreadnought coming out as well. So you really don't want to delay that. Because if you get into a situation where your Carnifex or your Swarm Lord is outnumbered by enemy Dreadnoughts, you're going to be in a tough spot. Of course, Inekura has gone for the Death Spitters here, which gives him a lot more pressure and utility here from his Venom Brood against all the infantry that he's fighting. But if eventually Deimos gets a Dreadnought to help deal with any Carnifex, then, you know, these guys aren't really going to do a whole lot, whereas if they had Venom Cannons, they would. So the AV on each side to support the Walkers is disproportionately in favour of Deimos at the present time. Let's see if these Death Spitters can target this weakened Scout Squad here. They might be able to bleed a model, they're not going to bother. An attempted double retreat grenade there from Deimos, but presumably he's unfamiliar with the map. I would be as well. So it's hard to hit the retreat grenades when you don't know the retreat paths on the map. Here comes the first Carnifex, 150 power investment here for Inekura. Look at the damage though from the Death Spitters, and the Termagants melts that squad of scouts. And look, that's the power of the Death Spitters. Sure, if a Dreadnought comes out, he's going to have less AV potential, but it has utility right now. And look at the Lictor Alpha with the damage that he outputs from the Lord Hunter, giving him that extra 40% damage in combination with the crazy high damage he already has from the Scything Talons, and the fact that it's power melee, so it does even more damage against the Devastators, which are heavy infantry. He wipes that last cannon Devastator squad no problem, and that actually evens things out tremendously. The utility of the Venom Brood is still there because they're able to kill infantry, whereas the AV options here for Deimos have now disappeared. Problematic because there is now a Carnifex. This is no Tyrant Guard. This is a Carnifex. This is 100% pure vehicle armor. Now, it doesn't have any upgrades yet, so its utility is relatively limited. In reality, this thing is really weaker than a tier 2 Space Marine Dreadnought right now. But Inekura is probably waiting to see what kind of threat Deimos is going to be getting out. Deimos doesn't have a tier 2 Dreadnought out at the moment because he has instead opted to go for tier 3. So you go tier 3, what tools do you get access to? Primarily you get access to Terminators and the Predator tank. If Inekura dedicates himself to a melee kind of effects, he's going to be very vulnerable to a Predator tank, which is able to outspeed it and shoot it from a distance. It's going to take a lot of time to kill it, but in theory the kind of effects should never catch a tank. Terminators on the other hand, because he's fighting the Force Commander, there is potential for a melee Terminator squad. So if you want to kill a tank, you would go for a Venom Cannon Carnifex, but then the Force Commander could drop down melee Terminators, and that could be very problematic because they basically will rip apart the Carnifex in melee, because the Venom Cannon Carnifex doesn't have any melee resist. The fight between a Formback and a melee Terminator squad would be closer. It can go either way, it depends on the specials that the Carnifex would get. But instead then he's opting for the Barb Strangler. Well, the Strangle Thorn Cannon. It's basically an uber Barb Strangler. You've seen how this thing can spawn spore mines as well, and that was used pretty effectively there. So this is going to give Inekura a lot of potential to deal with the infantry blobs of Deimos, but... well, Deimos was building a Predator, which could have been effective against it. The Stranglethorn Cannon will do a lot of damage if it hits the Predator, but it's a very slow-moving projectile, and in theory, the Predator should be able to dodge that relatively easily, especially when there's no other ranged AV pressure, because the Venom Brood have gone for the Death Spitters and not kept their Venom Cannons. But Deimos cancelled it, so I'm not really sure what's going on here. If he's going for a Land Raider Redeemer, if he's going to go for the combination of a Las Cannon plus a Assault Terminator squad. I would imagine Assault Terminators would be a very good choice. Again, Death Spitters though will be very useful at dealing with those Assault Terminators. We now have a tier 3 Lictor out as well. This guy's really cool because he, as you can see, can infiltrate infinitely. So his infiltration prevents him from regaining any lost energy, but it doesn't cost him any energy. So that's nice. He also caps 50% faster. He's got a really powerful Flesh Hook. Does more damage than the Lictor Alphas and pulls for further. Here come the Assault Terminators. Let's see what they can do. The Stranglethorn Cannon will do some nice chunk damage to them, but they're still Terminators, and they will last for a very, very, very long time. You're going to need the Death Spitters, you're going to need some melee on them, and of course this Carnifex, being a ranged variant, doesn't have any melee resist. So you can see a couple of hits there from the Thunderhammers. Going to do a good amount of damage to the Terminators. There's the damage from one attack from the Stranglethorn Cannon. We got some Devastators out, still with their Heavy Bolter. Gonna be hard to utilize the Devastators though when you've got 2 Lictors running around. Oh, this does not look good for the Terminators. No, they can't afford to be meleeing the Tyrant Guard right now. They do not have time for that. Yeah. Deimos says fuck this race. I know, Deimos. Maybe you should have just stayed in tier 2 and gone for a walker. And probably needed a plasma gun a very, very long time ago. It's interesting. Inekura kind of skipped tier 2, but he seemed to do better in tier 2 than he did in tier 1. Which is not really how the meta kind of suggests things to go. The Tyranids are meant to dominate tier 1. And in late tier 2 they're meant to struggle. But Deimos then skipped late tier 2 himself, so... I don't know, typically you want to see Librarians, you want to see multiple Devastators, and you certainly want to see Dreadnoughts fighting the Tyranids. And yeah, Terminator's not a very good choice. I mean, they get snared by the Termagant brood and can't retreat, so Termagants are a pain for them. Not that the Termagants themselves can do anything, but... you know, you've got Death Spitters, you've got the splash heavy melee damage to the Tyrant Guard, you've got big chunky damage there because it's plasma cannon damage, so it does bonus against super heavy infantry from the Carnifex. All the Carnifex variants are okay. Well, the Venom Cannon doesn't really do anything, but yeah, I don't know. Clearly not a very effective choice. That said, he spawned them, isolated, and sent them in on their own. What you need to do if you want to kill the Carnifex is you need to snare the Carnifex already with a Melter Bomb or a Las Cannon. Imagine if you got the 100% snare, and then he could have ripped the Carnifex to pieces with the Thunderhammers very quickly. Then you have the Force Commander nearby to give them more damage with Battlecry and protect them from melee against the Warriors, Genestealers, etc. I don't know. ASM type, the Death Spitters, you know, there's plenty of options here. I don't think Space Marines have much trouble with Tyranids, at least relative to all the other races. I think Space Marines probably have one of the best chances against Tyranids along with IG. Probably a better chance than IG, in all honesty. Anyway, there you go, guys. A high-level Space Marines versus Tyranids. Hope you did enjoy that one. That's going to be all from your boy STD this time. I am signing out.